Okay, let's unpack this. We're about to dive deep into a source that presents a very specific and, well, quite strong perspective on current discussions around gender and identity. Our material today comes from excerpts of a podcast called The War on Masculinity and Femininity, Erasing the Image of God. If we're exploring its claims that there's a kind of silent war happening.
Right.
Not with, traditional weapons, but fought with confusion, aiming to fundamentally reshape what it means to be male and female.
Yeah, and what's really striking, I think, about this source is how it goes beyond just the surface level stuff.
Right.
It asserts this war is a full-scale attack on the image of the creator.
Okay.
And just to be clear, the source is very specific about defining that image of the creator as the divine design of male and female, drawing from Genesis 1.27.
Right.
So our goal here is really to extract the core arguments and the real-world proof this source gives to back up its claims, just helping you understand this specific viewpoint.
And it sees this as deeper than just politics.
Yeah. Exactly. And says this is far deeper than politics or identity. That's the frame.
Okay, so the foundational claim, truth is considered hate, and confusion is being sold as compassion.
Very direct.
It really zeroes in on what it believes is being targeted in this war it talks about. It argues masculinity is being labeled toxic.
Right.
That femininity is being reduced to aesthetics.
Yes, looks.
And that children are being told that gender is a feeling. And the bottom line, from this viewpoint, is that culture is celebrating the erasure of what God designed.
And from this source's perspective, this isn't like random cultural drift. No, it argues this is strategic. It points directly to Genesis 1.27, So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them.
Okay.
So the material suggests male and female were meant as divine reflections. And so the logic follows, to erase the image is to erase the understanding of the creator. That really is the source's central idea, the foundation for everything else it put forward. It's definitely an interesting way to frame the whole conversation.
It certainly provides a unique lens.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that claim laid out, the source then moves to what it calls real-world proof. What kind of evidence does it actually present to argue this isn't just, opinion?
Well, it starts with the statistics. It highlights that nearly 1 in 4 teenagers in the U.S. now identifies as something other than male or female.
1 in 4.
Yeah, citing the CDC Youth Risk Behavior Survey from 2023. Then it shifts into, policy.
Right. And it points out that public schools in several states have introduced gender-neutral curricula starting in kindergarten. And it doesn't stop there, does it? It points fingers at bigger entities, too.
Oh, absolutely. The analysis claims that tech giants like Meta, Google, and TikTok allow users to choose from over 60-plus gender identities.
60-plus.
And crucially, according to this source, they penalize those who challenge them. And then there's the cultural aspect. The source notes that traditional portrayals of men protectors, leaders, builders are constantly mocked in modern film, ads, and media.
Okay, so connecting different dots there.
Exactly. What's insightful about the source's method here is how it weaves these things together. Tech policies, school curricula, media messages, presenting them not as separate trends, but as linked parts of this intentional war it describes.
That makes sense, seeing how it connects it all.
Yeah.
But then the big question, why? Why does the source claim this is all happening? What's the motive behind it from their perspective?
Well, the source gives a very specific reason. Because an ungrounded people are an easily controlled people.
Okay, control.
Yeah. It argues when you disconnect people from who they are, they'll submit to anyone who promises clarity, even if it costs them their soul.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
It is. It provides a sort of strategic motive for the patterns it sees, linking these societal trends to a larger agenda of, control.
So, moving on from the why, what about the impact? What does this mean for individuals? The source claims it's not just affecting culture, but it's actively damaging souls. It talks about skyrocketing rates of depression, identity crisis, and suicide among youth who've been taught to reject their own design.
It's a very powerful claim the source is making, isn't it? Framing these mental health struggles not just as societal problems, but as direct results of what it sees as moving away from this original design.
Yeah.
And it cites a 2023 study in The Lancet that showed trans-identified teens are nearly 4x more likely to attempt suicide than the general population, at least according to its interpretation of that study.
Okay.
And this is where the source brings in its counter-narrative. It says, While the system says they need affirmation, what they actually need is truth.
And it connects that to Scripture.
Yes, specifically Romans 1.25. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped created things rather than the Creator. The source basically concludes that the moment we stopped honoring the order of creation, we opened the door to confusion,
Right.
which it says is now being called liberation.
Okay, so the source argues this war isn't just abstract, like on TV or social media.
Mm-hmm.
It claims it's actually showing up in your everyday life.
Mm.
Where does it say people should expect to see it?
It suggests looking at things like your workplace policies, the commercials your kids watch, the schools rewriting the biology books.
Even churches.
Yeah, and even the church is too afraid to speak.
Yeah.
It gets really specific about gender roles here. It asserts masculinity is being feminized and femininity is being objectified.
Okay, and how does it spell that out for men and women specifically? What does that mean in practice, according to the source?
It claims that real men are told they're aggressive, just for being men, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And real women are told submission is oppression. So the core message from this viewpoint is that when we strip away the roles given by the Most High, we strip away the beauty and balance he created.
And the consequence of that.
Well, according to the source, it leads to a generation without fathers and grounded mothers.
Okay.
Which then becomes a generation without covering, and covering here seems to mean like spiritual protection and guidance.
I see.
And this outcome, the source asserts, is exactly what the enemy wants. It's a pretty stark cause and effect line they draw, linking societal shifts directly to a spiritual conflict.
So given this whole picture of a societal war, this is where the source kind of turns to the listener, right?
Yeah.
To you.
Exactly.
Implying that if you're hearing this, maybe you're part of a remnant meant to rebuild what culture tried to erase.
That's the term they use, remnant, signifying, a group it sees as holding on to these original designs despite the pressure, standing apart.
So what does it tell this remnant to actually do? What are the specific actions it calls for?
It lays out some clear calls. For men, it's time to lead again with strength, wisdom, and humility.
Okay, and for women?
For women, it's time to walk in honor, influence, and holy beauty, not filtered performance.
So less about arguing online.
Yeah, the broader message seems to be about restoration, but not through online debates. It says the remnant doesn't conform, it restores by living boldly, building families, standing firm, and refusing to bow to the confusion of Babylon.
The Babylon there is used metaphorically.
Yeah, seems so. Representing a kind of corrupt, confusing, worldly system that opposes this divine order the source talks about.
Got it.
And it really emphasizes the core directive. If the Creator formed you male, be fully that. If he formed you female, be gloriously that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it concludes this part with a really powerful statement. It's not just about gender, it's about image. And if the world hates the image, then we must be doing something right.
Okay, so we've just navigated, impactful viewpoint on gender and identity, drawing directly from this source that frames these discussions as a profound war.
Yeah, this really explored a viewpoint that sees the current landscape of gender and identity as, a war on what it defines as foundational divine principles. It suggests that by embracing what it called original design, a person is basically engaging in a battle for truth against confusion. So thinking about all this, what stands out to you when considering this particular source's perspective on identity, society, and this whole idea of a remnant?